A reading from Matthew's Gospel, chapter 21, beginning at the first verse. Now when they drew near to Jerusalem and came to Bethphage, to the Mount of Olives, then Jesus sent 2 disciples, saying to them, Go into the village in front of you, and immediately you will find a donkey tied, and a colt with her. Untie them and bring them to me. If anyone says anything to you, you shall say, The Lord needs them, and he will send them at once. This took place to fulfill what was spoken by the prophet, saying, Say to the daughter of Zion, Behold, your king is coming to you, humble, and mounted on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a beast of burden. The disciples went and did as Jesus had directed them. They brought the donkey and the colt, and put on them their cloaks, and he sat on them. Most of the crowd spread their cloaks on the road, and others cut branches from the trees and spread them on the road. And the crowds that went before him and that followed him were shouting, Hosanna to the Son of David! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord! Hosanna in the highest! And when he entered Jerusalem, the whole city was stirred up, saying, Who is this? And the crowd said, This is the prophet Jesus from Nazareth of Galilee. And so to Palm Sunday, and so for the time for Jesus to go into Jerusalem, to suffer, to be crucified, but also, as we see here, to enter as something as a king. He is near at this stage the village of Bethphage, which is on the slopes of the Mount of Olives, and he sends 2 disciples off with a most unusual errand. They're to untie a donkey and her colt and bring them to him. If anyone objects, they are to say only this, The Lord has need of them. It's a short sentence, but it carries a great weight. And so let's consider it somewhat carefully. Note first of all the authority in this. The Lord has need of them. Everything rests upon that one word, Lord. If Christ was simply a teacher, well, then people might question his judgment. If he was a prophet, the owner might hesitate. But he is the Lord. The beasts of the very fields are his. The hills of Judea are his. The city of Jerusalem itself is his. The whole world belongs to him. So when Jesus asks for something, when the Lord asks for something, he merely calls for what is already his. We will too often, I think, speak of our time, our money, our abilities, yet in truth they're not ours at all. We simply had them in trust from the King. The Christian is only a steward looking after the King's goods until the Master calls. And there's a wonder here. There's a wonder that the Lord should need anything. He is, after all, as we've seen, the Lord of all, yet he seems to have need. Why? There's something of a mystery here. How can the Lord of heaven need anything? Isn't he not the one who feeds the ravens and clothes the lilies? He could have created 1,000 horses with a single word, and yet he says, I have need. Why should this be? Well, it's because in his grace he uses and often chooses to use human instruments. So it is that in this instance he uses those disciples to get the colt. So it is in other instances he uses preachers rather than convert the world with angels. He could write the gospel in the sky, and yet he allowed those gospel writers to set it down for him. The Lord delights to make his people his partners in his work. And not any kind of partners. Look at the sort of thing that Christ asks for. He asks for something humble, not a noble stallion on a royal chariot. No, he asks for a borrowed donkey. How this is like the ways of God that we see throughout the Old Testament. Consider the shepherd boy David with his sling, or consider the widow's small jar used by Elisha. Or in the New Testament, think of that lad's small meal of 5 loaves and 2 fishes that Jesus used to feed the multitude. God often passes by the great things of the world and takes up the small humble things. Why? Well, so that the glory may be entirely his. My friend, as you're watching this, you might think I am obscure, or I am weak, or I have little ability. But if the Lord has need of you, well, that is enough. The donkey became royal when Christ rose upon it. And what blessedness there is in being used by Christ. Imagine that colt afterwards. If it could speak, might it not say, I once carried the King, I had Jesus upon my back? No jewel in a crown could equal that sort of honour. And what greater honour can there be than to be used by Christ? Better to serve Christ in the smallest task than to rule kingdoms without him. Better one conversation about him, one act of kindness carried out in his name. These things shine in heaven's records forever. And so perhaps today the Lord speaks these same words about something in your life. The Lord has need of them. He may have need of your abilities or your possessions, your time, your voice, your very heart. And will you hold them back? Or will you gladly release them when the King calls? The owner of the colt did not argue. He didn't bargain. He simply let the disciples take it. And because he did, that humble animal carried the King into Jerusalem while the crowds cried out, Hosanna. Oh, that it may be said of us as well. The Lord had need of them, and they were gladly given.